The silence after humiliation is louder than shouting. She stood alone in the glass conference room long after everyone else had left, the city glowing beneath her like something distant and unreal. Her reflection stared back at her from the windows. Perfect posture, calm expression, lips pressed into a line that suggested control. But her chest felt tight, as if the air itself had grown heavier. Her phone buzzed once on the table. She didn't pick it up. Somewhere far below, traffic moved on. People laughed. Ordinary lives continued. The world hadn't stopped just because something inside her had cracked. She told herself nothing had happened. 3 hours earlier, she had walked into that same room already irritated. She had been late, not because she didn't care, but because time had never dared to challenge her. Meetings waited, people adjusted, schedules bent. As she entered, conversations dissolved, chairs shifted. Someone straightened a stack of papers, as if order itself needed to impress her. She barely noticed. She moved to the head of the table, dropped her tablet down, and began speaking before fully sitting. "Let's not waste time," she said, scanning faces. "We all know why we're here." That was when she saw him, not seated close, not pushing forward, standing near the wall, holding a folder loosely, shoulders relaxed. He wasn't nervous. That annoyed her more than fear ever would. He stood when she approached. She paused. "You don't need to do that," she said, smiling thinly. He nodded once and sat back down. Introductions followed. Titles, departments, contributions. She half listened, already mapping decisions in her head. Then he spoke. His voice was calm, not rehearsed, not loud. "I think there's another way to approach this." The room stilled. She turned toward him slowly. "Another way," she repeated. "Yes," he said. "One that doesn't involve dismantling a team that's been holding this division together for years." A flicker of irritation crossed her face, barely visible, controlled. "You're suggesting sentiment over efficiency?" she asked. "I'm suggesting that efficiency isn't always measured in numbers." Someone coughed. Someone else shifted in their seat. She leaned back slightly, crossing her arms. "And you are?" "Daniel. Just Daniel." She smiled again, sharper this time. "You work for us," she said lightly. "Not with us." The words landed harder than she intended, but she didn't stop them. Daniel didn't raise his voice. He didn't shrink. "I work with facts," he said, "and with people." Her jaw tightened. She felt eyes on her, waiting, measuring. That was when she chose to win instead of understand. "This isn't a classroom," she said. "It's a business, and confidence without authority is decorative." A few quiet laughs rippled through the room. Daniel's fingers tightened around his folder. "I see," he said quietly. He stood, gathered his papers, and walked out without another word. The door closed softly behind him. For 12 seconds, she felt victorious. Then the room felt wrong, too quiet, too still. Someone cleared their throat and quickly returned to their notes. She continued the meeting as if nothing had happened, but something had shifted. Now, hours later, her phone buzzed again. This time, she picked it up. A message preview. No sender name. "Have you seen this yet?" Below it, a video thumbnail. Her own face, frozen mid-sentence. Her voice filled the empty room as the clip played. "You work for us." "Not with us." Then silence. Then Daniel's calm reply. "I work with facts. And with people." The caption below the video was already spreading. "Power doesn't always need to shout." Her breath caught. She watched it again. And again. Each time, she noticed something new. The way her tone sharpened. The way his eyes dropped for half a second. The laugh that came too late from someone in the room. Her assistant appeared quietly at the door. "They're asking for a statement," she said. "Who's they?" she asked without looking up. The assistant hesitated. Everyone. She turned then. Who recorded it? The assistant glanced down at her tablet. We don't know yet. Her phone vibrated again, notifications stacking, comments multiplying. She felt heat creep up her neck. Who is he? She asked. Daniel Reyes, the assistant said. His father works in archival compliance for one of our older holdings. She frowned. That division barely exists. It exists enough, the assistant said carefully. The words stayed with her long after the assistant left. That evening, Daniel sat at his kitchen table, hands wrapped around a mug he hadn't touched. The house smelled faintly of old books and detergent. Comfortable. Modest. His father sat across from him, reading the news on his phone, his brow furrowed. They're talking about you, his father said finally. Daniel nodded. They always do, he replied softly. This is different. Daniel looked up. They don't like being challenged, his father continued, especially not by someone without a title. Daniel's jaw tightened. I didn't challenge her, he said. I corrected a mistake. His father sighed. Sometimes that's worse. Across the city, she sat alone in her penthouse, lights off, city glow reflecting off the marble floors. The video played again on her tablet, muted this time. She told herself she wasn't bothered, but she couldn't sleep. The next morning, headlines bloomed. Not vicious, not yet. Just curious. Questions about leadership, about tone, about power. Her mother called before sunrise. I told you to be careful in public, her mother said coolly. I was, she replied. Her mother laughed softly. No, you were careless. There was a pause. We'll handle it, her mother continued. But you need to stay quiet. Silence again. The next day, Daniel's father was called into a meeting. The next day, her assistant stopped meeting her eyes. The next day, a friend texted her. I didn't think it would blow up like this. Her fingers hovered over the screen. Did you upload it? She typed. 3 dots appeared. Then disappeared. She set the phone down. Something cold settled in her stomach. That night, rain streaked the city streets as she stepped out of a black car, the sound sharp against the pavement. She didn't see him at first. Then she did. Daniel stood under the awning across the street, waiting for a ride. He looked tired, not broken, just human. Their eyes met. For a moment, neither moved. She crossed the street before she could talk herself out of it. You don't look like someone who won, he said quietly. I didn't come to fight, she replied. He studied her face, searching for something. You humiliated me, he said. Not accusing, just honest. She swallowed. I didn't mean to, she said, and realized it was true. The rain fell harder. You still did, he replied. She nodded. I know. A beat. You could apologize, he said gently. She opened her mouth, then closed it. Something inside her resisted. Pride. Fear. Habit. I need time, she said instead. He nodded once. Take it, he said. But understand, time doesn't stop consequences. He walked away. She stood there as the rain soaked through her coat, heart pounding, breath shallow. For the first time, power didn't feel like strength. It felt like exposure. And she knew, without fully admitting it yet, that things would only get worse from here. The morning after the video spread, she woke up to a world that no longer waited for her. Her phone lay on the nightstand, vibrating softly, endlessly, as if it had grown impatient with being ignored. She stared at the ceiling instead. White. Clean. Untouched. The kind of ceiling designed to never witness mistakes. She reached for the phone anyway. Headlines bloomed across the screen. Not accusations. Questions. Questions were worse. She sat up slowly, the silk sheets sliding off her shoulders. and for the first time in years, she didn't know what she was supposed to do next. At the office, things felt off. People still greeted her, still smiled, still said her name with the same careful respect. But their eyes didn't linger anymore. Her assistant walked beside her through the hallway, tablet held tight against her chest. "You've got 3 meetings this morning," the assistant said, voice professional, neutral. "Any cancellations?" she asked. A pause, just a fraction too long. "No." They reached her office door. The assistant stopped. "Is something wrong?" she asked. The assistant shook her head quickly. "Of course not." But she didn't meet her eyes. Inside the office, the city stretched endlessly beyond the glass. Normally, it made her feel untouchable. Today, it felt like exposure. She sat, opened her laptop, and froze. An internal memo, not sent to her, about her. Leadership tone, reputational risk, public sentiment. She scrolled. Her name appeared too many times. Her phone buzzed again. A message from a friend, one she trusted. "I didn't think it would go this far." Her fingers hovered over the screen. "Did you upload it?" she typed. 3 dots appeared, then vanished. Minutes passed. No reply. Something cold settled in her chest. Across the city, Daniel stood at a bus stop, collar turned up against the morning chill. He hadn't slept much either. His phone had been quiet. Too quiet. That scared him more than noise. His father sat at the kitchen table when Daniel returned home that evening, coat still on, keys untouched in his hand. "They called me in today," his father said quietly. Daniel stopped. "For what?" "Performance review." Daniel frowned. "That doesn't make sense. You've never had one." His father shrugged. "Apparently. Now I need one." They sat in silence. "You should apologize," his father said eventually. "Just to end this." Daniel shook his head slowly. "I didn't do anything wrong." His father sighed. "I know. But sometimes that doesn't matter." Daniel clenched his jaw. Across town, she sat in her mother's office, the air thick with perfume and restraint. Her mother stood by the window, phone pressed to her ear, voice low. Yes, I understand, of course." She hung up and turned. "Sit," her mother said. She did. "This is a mess," her mother continued. "And messes need containment." "I didn't mean—" Her mother raised a hand. "Intentions are irrelevant. Outcomes matter." She swallowed. "What are you going to do?" Her mother smiled faintly, not kindly. "We'll remind people where influence comes from." That night, articles began to shift. The tone sharpened. Context disappeared. Daniel's name surfaced more frequently. Speculation followed. By morning, his father's department was under review. Daniel read the email twice, then a third time. "They're cutting staff," he said aloud. His father didn't respond. At work, she watched the shift happen in real time. Comments online turning colder. Sympathy thinning. Narratives hardening. She called her friend. No answer. She called again. Straight to voicemail. Her assistant knocked lightly on her door. "They want you downstairs," she said. "Who?" "Media." She shook her head. "I'm not doing statements." The assistant hesitated. "Your mother says you should." She stood. Downstairs, flashes exploded as soon as she stepped into view. Microphones pressed forward. "Do you regret what you said? Was it abuse of power? Are layoffs connected to the incident?" Her mouth went dry. She said nothing. Silence roared. That evening, rain soaked the city. Streets gleamed under streetlights, reflecting faces she didn't recognize anymore. She stepped out of a car, and saw him across the street. Daniel, standing under an awning, alone. She crossed without thinking. "They're going after my father," he said, before she could speak. Her chest tightened. "I didn't ask for that. But you didn't stop it." The words hurt more than shouting. "I didn't know how," she said. He studied her face, searching. "You always know how," he said quietly. "You just didn't want to." She looked away. Rain filled the silence. "They're turning me into a story," he continued, "and you're letting it happen." Her hands trembled. "I don't control everything," she said. "No," he replied, "but you benefit from it." That night, she sat alone in her apartment, lights off, city pulsing below. Her phone lay face down on the table. Finally, she flipped it over. A message from an unknown number. "If you want this to stop, stop fighting your mother." Her breath caught. She stared at the screen for a long time. Then slowly, she turned the phone face down again. For the first time, she realized the truth she'd been avoiding. This wasn't about one meeting or one video. This was about who she was willing to become to stay in control, and who she was willing to lose. The message stayed on her screen long after the phone dimmed. She didn't delete it, didn't reply. She only sat there, shoulders stiff, breath shallow, as if answering it might make the threat real. Outside her glass windows, the city moved on. Cars, lights, people laughing somewhere far below. None of them knew that her name, her carefully built image, was already being rewritten by someone else. By morning, she finally stood, pacing the apartment barefoot, her steps quiet against polished floors. She replayed the night over and over. The rain, Daniel's face, the way his voice cracked when he said her name. Not angry, not begging, just disappointed. That hurt more than the headlines. By the time she reached the office the next morning, the building felt colder. The receptionist looked up, smiled too quickly, then looked away. Elevator doors slid shut, sealing her in with her reflection. For the first time in years, she didn't recognize the woman staring back. Perfect posture, immaculate suit, eyes shadowed by something heavier than fatigue. On the executive floor, the tension was unmistakable. Conversations stopped when she passed. A few phones were already raised, pretending not to record. Inside the boardroom, her mother sat at the head of the table, composed as always, calm, controlled, untouched by scandal. "You're late," her mother said, not looking up from the tablet in her hands. "I'm here," she replied evenly, taking her seat. The screen lit up at the front of the room. Graphs, polls, sentiment analysis, her name in red. "This is becoming a liability," one board member said carefully. Her mother tapped the table once. Silence followed. "We will control the narrative," her mother said. "As we always do." She leaned forward. "You'll issue a statement. You'll express regret. You'll distance yourself from him." The word landed like a slap. "He didn't do anything," she said quietly. Her mother finally looked at her then. "Neither did you. That's irrelevant." Something shifted in her chest, a crack she couldn't hide. "He lost his job," she said. "Because of me." Her mother's voice remained level. "He was replaceable." The room stayed silent. That was the moment she realized no one here was on her side. Across town, Daniel sat on the edge of his bed, staring at the wall. His phone buzzed again. Another message from someone he didn't know. Another reminder that the world had decided who he was without asking. He hadn't told his father yet. The man was already working double shifts, already carrying enough weight. Daniel couldn't bring himself to add more. Instead, he stood, pulled on his jacket, and left the apartment. The city didn't care where he was going. It swallowed him whole. He walked until the noise faded, until the buildings grew smaller, until his chest stopped tightening with every step. He ended up at a public park, sitting on a bench damp from last night's rain. That's where she found him. He didn't look surprised when he heard her voice. "I didn't think you'd come," he said. She stayed standing. "I didn't think I deserved to." Silence stretched between them. "I never asked for this," he said eventually. "I didn't ask to be your lesson. Or your scandal." "I know," she said. Her voice was softer than she intended. "And I'm sorry." He laughed once, without humor. "Sorry doesn't give me my job back." She nodded. "I know." They sat there, the distance between them heavier than the space itself. "Why are you really here?" he asked. She hesitated, then told the truth. "Because if I don't fix this, I'll become exactly who they think I am." He studied her face. For the first time, she didn't hide. "I don't want your pity," he said. "I'm not offering pity," she replied. "I'm offering accountability." That made him look at her differently. The backlash intensified by evening. Anonymous leaks, edited clips, old photos dragged into the light. Her phone rang nonstop. Advisors, lawyers, PR executives. Her mother watched it all unfold with practiced detachment. "You're losing control," her mother said over dinner, her tone almost bored. "No," she replied. "I'm choosing something else." Her mother's eyes sharpened. "Be careful. Choice has consequences." "So does silence," she said. That night, she made a decision that would burn every bridge she'd been standing on. She released her own statement. Unfiltered, unapproved, she took responsibility. Not in vague corporate language, but plainly. She acknowledged the harm, the imbalance of power, the damage done. She named it. By morning, the internet exploded. Daniel woke to missed calls, messages from former co-workers, from strangers, from reporters. He saw the statement, read it twice, then a third time. She hadn't protected herself. She hadn't shifted blame. She hadn't erased him. For the first time since this began, he felt something loosen in his chest. But relief was short-lived. A message came through minutes later, from an unknown number. "Do you think this ends well for people like you?" Attached was a photo. His father. Leaving work. Fear settled deep and cold. She found out an hour later. Her mother stood in the doorway of her office, expression unreadable. "You've made yourself vulnerable," her mother said, "and now others will exploit it." "You mean you," she replied. Her mother didn't deny it. "You don't understand how this world works," her mother said. "Power is not shared. It's enforced." She stood. "Not anymore." The room felt smaller. Charged. "You're not ready for what comes next," her mother warned. She met her gaze. "Neither are you." That was the moment the war stopped being public and became personal. If this story has pulled you in so far, if you felt the tension, the silence, the choices, take a moment to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment. It helps stories like this reach the people who need them most. Now, let's finish it. The fallout was immediate. By dawn, her name dominated every screen. Some praised her honesty. Others called it weakness. Investors panicked. Partners hesitated. The company's stock wavered like a pulse, struggling to stay steady. She stood in her office, watching it all unfold without flinching. For the first time, she wasn't trying to control the storm. Her mother arrived without knocking. "You've crossed a line," her mother said, voice calm but sharp. "This ends now." She turned from the window slowly. "No, this is where it begins." Her mother stepped closer. "You think morality survives power struggles? You think truth protects you?" "I think lies destroy everything," she replied. A beat of silence passed. "You're not my daughter right now," her mother said. "You're an obstacle." The words were quiet, clean, final. That was when she understood. This was no longer about reputation. It was about identity. Daniel didn't sleep. He sat beside his father's bed in the hospital waiting room, fingers locked together so tightly his knuckles ached. The photo had been a warning, not an accident. Someone wanted him afraid, and it worked. When his phone buzzed again, he almost didn't look. Her name. He stepped into the hallway before answering. "I'm sorry," she said immediately. No preamble, no defense. "I didn't ask you to do this," he replied. "I know, but I won't let them hurt you because of me." A pause. "You can't fight them," he said quietly. "They'll destroy you." She exhaled. "Maybe, but I won't survive becoming them." For the first time, he heard fear in her voice, not panic, resolve trembling at the edge. "That statement, it cost you everything, didn't it?" he asked. She didn't answer right away. "It cost me who I pretended to be." The board convened without her. An emergency vote, a quiet removal. Corporate language wrapped around betrayal like silk around steel. By the time she was informed, the decision had already been made. She was out. No more office, no more title, no protection. Her mother didn't call, didn't need to. The message was clear. She packed her belongings herself. One box, that was all her old life amounted to. As she left the building, no one stopped her. No applause, no pity, just space. Freedom felt terrifying. Daniel found her sitting on a bench outside the building, box at her feet, eyes lifted toward the sky, like she was trying to remember how it looked, without glass in the way. "They did it," she said before he could ask. He sat beside her. "Are you okay?" She smiled faintly. "Ask me tomorrow." They sat there longer than necessary. "I don't know what happens next," she admitted. "I don't know who I am without all of this." He looked at her. Not the name, not the legacy, not the scandal. "You're someone who chose to stop," he said. "That matters." Her eyes filled, but she didn't look away. The retaliation came quietly. Lawsuits, frozen accounts, smear campaigns framed as concern. Her mother moved like a shadow behind it all, never visible, always present. "You can still come back," her mother said during their final conversation. "All you have to do is let this go." She shook her head. "You taught me power was everything. You were wrong." Her mother studied her for a long moment. "Then you'll learn what power takes," she said, and walked away. That was the last time they spoke. Months passed, the noise faded, the headlines moved on. She found work. Not glamorous, not dominant, but honest. Consulting. Quiet rebuilding. Listening instead of commanding. Daniel found stability again. A new job. Better hours. A sense of dignity untouched by fear. They didn't rush into anything. They talked, walked, learned the shape of each other without pressure. One evening, as the sun dipped low and the city glowed softly, she stopped mid-step. "I used to think happiness was control," she said. "Now I think it's choosing who you stand with when control is gone." He smiled. "Took you long enough." She laughed, really laughed, for the first time since this all began. Her mother watched from afar, The empire endured, but something inside it had cracked. A daughter who would not return. A legacy with a missing heir. For the first time, power felt hollow. The story didn't end with applause. It ended with quiet. With two people walking forward without needing to prove anything. With a woman who lost everything and finally found herself. If this story stayed with you, like the video, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Stories grow when they're echoed. Thank you for listening.